Our next guest, very interesting. I am so honored to have her on the program as well. Our next guest coming up is Betsey Whitfill. Betsey has been a technical editor for Bell Labs, a technical editor at Bellcom Inc., Washington, D.C. for the Apollo Lunar Landing Project, and an office manager for her husband's internal medicine practice in Dallas, Texas. After having a life-changing experience, Betsey became a volunteer for Share International Foundation, National Coordinator, Share International Media Service Correspondent for Share International Magazine. She's a public speaker on esoteric subjects as the reappearance of Christ. Talk about an amazing weekend to have Betsey on the show. Without any further delay, let's go ahead and get her on. Betsey, good evening. Welcome to Fringe Radio.
Thank you, Pat. I'm happy to be here.
Well, and happy Easter to you, and thank you for giving us some time tonight.
My pleasure.
So let me ask you, Betsey, for our listeners, of course, I've done some digging into your work, but why don't you give us a little bit, I gave just a short bio, why don't you give us a little bit of the backstory of what you've done and what brings you to where you are today?
Well, I have a degree in philosophy from a little women's college in Pennsylvania, Wilson College, and then I got in philosophy. It's hard to make a living, so I became a technical editor for the Bell system and met my husband in Washington, D.C., and came to, came to Dallas and started raising children as we did back in the 60s. And I read a book by a man called Benjamin Creme. It is called The Reappearance of the Christ and the Masters of Wisdom. And it really piqued my interest. This would have been in the late 70s. The culture had taken a turn in the 60s and in the 70s. I was raising boys, and I was very concerned about the values that I had grown up with not being reflected in their environment, their social environment, and what have you. And I started thinking, I don't know how children will work out with the influence of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, I guess it was. And so I was running carpools, and I happened to hang out at a New Age bookstore back then and found this book by Benjamin Creme. I had been reading a series of books by a wonderful esotericist, Alice A. Bailey, who wrote about 20 books on various esoteric subjects, but also on the reappearance of the Christ and the Masters of Wisdom. So the title was familiar to me, and it piqued my interest. I bought the book and started reading it, and I thought, my goodness, Benjamin Creme is saying that the teacher that Christians expect as the Christ, Jews the Messiah, Muslims the Imam Mahdi, Buddhists the fifth Buddha, has come back to humanity's everyday world to teach us how to save ourselves and our planet. Back then, no one was too worried about the planet, and it was very kind of an odd subject. The Beatles were very big and were going to India, and so there was this New Age sheen over the culture. So I was reading this book and also keeping a dream journal, and I had a dream one night, and a tall man with a turban and a white robe came to me in this dream and said, "Would you do the heart-to-heart for your village?" I don't know what I said. I probably said, "Sure, glad to help." Wrote it down in my journal, and shortly thereafter really felt compelled to go to California and listen to a lecture by this Benjamin Creme. I thought, this is such a fascinating subject. It answers so many of the questions that philosophically I had always wondered about in terms of the Catholic religion in which I was raised. And so I was really drawn to go and see what this was about. I wanted to perhaps help, but I would have to have some really strong evidence that this was real, that this, was the real deal. So I went to California, and Benjamin Crumb traditionally would sit on a stage, or in this case it was a church, and he would look at the audience before he would speak. He would look eye to eye to everyone in the audience, and I didn't really know what to expect. But when he came to me, I don't know quite what happened. I kind of came to after I don't know how long, and when I came to, so to speak, tears were running down my cheeks, and my cheeks hurt. I was apparently grinning really hard for some time, and what I saw was the man in my dream appeared where Mr. Crumb was sitting in this beautiful, really brilliant golden light that hurt my eyes so much I had to move behind the woman's head in front of me to kind of rest one eye. And this seemed to go on for a while, and I became a little embarrassed. And so all I did was think, really, I think I've had enough. This is going on longer than I'm comfortable with. And as soon as I thought that, the appearance, the face, if you will, from my dream nodded, and it all ended, and Benjamin Crumb went down the road to the next people. So this was the teacher, Maitreya, who overshadows Benjamin Crumb during these lectures that he used to give. And so this was my proof that the dream was real, that this connection was real, and I happily brought Mr. Crumb to lecture in my town he came here about 4 years in a row. Traditionally, he would travel to New York, L.A., San Francisco, then throughout Europe. He used to go to Mexico and to Japan regularly, twice a year. He's now in his 90s and doesn't travel anymore. So those of us who have had these experiences, plus others who feel the story of the return of this great teacher and his priorities, have formed Share International, and it's worldwide. The U.S. part of it is called Share International USA, and has its own website, and we provide public lectures, materials, answer questions, and have meditation groups all over the country. So this is why I'm here. I'm happy that you have invited me to tell this story, because it really is important that as many people as possible have a chance to hear it and respond however they do. Maitreya is a great teacher. He is the head of a group of highly perfected men. Those who know them call them the Masters of Wisdom, and they are men who have guided humanity from behind the scenes for millennia. They live in the mountains, retreats, and deserts of the world, and work telepathically on the inner planes through their disciples. They are coming back into the world physically to work openly among men, and at their head, of course, is the teacher whose personal name is Maitreya, called the Smiling One or the Happy One. And the Buddhists know his name, Maitreya. They expect the fifth Buddha, Maitreya Buddha, so they have his name right. But he will fulfill the requirements and the role of the Christ, the Imam Mahdi, the Messiah, and so on for all the traditional groups. But those who are not religious call him the world teacher, which is essentially his role as the teacher for the age of Aquarius.
Very interesting, very interesting. Would you want to take a couple calls? We got a couple calls for you, Betsey.
Sure.
Okay, hold on. Caller, good evening. Welcome to K-Talk. You're on with Betsey Whitfill.
Hey, Pat, it's Bill in New York.
Hi, Bill. How are you?
How's everything? Hello, Betsey. It's a pleasure to speak with you tonight.
Thanks for calling.
Betsey, it's actually, I was going to ask you something else, but when you brought up Benjamin Cream, I actually had the privilege to speak with Gerard Artisan from the Netherlands recently.
Yes,
And yes, and when you started mentioning about Maitreya and all the wisdom teaching, that's one of the things that he speaks about during his presentations. And also, it's incredible because he also speaks about the coming of the One and all the world's religions having a common theme of this prophecy. And I'm just curious, do you think that this is possible an alien entity? Because he says it's the brothers from space, and he mentions individual cases like, I forget the gentleman's name that had the craft, the sightings of the craft in the 50s in the United States and California, George Adamski, and also Dino Crespidin, if you're familiar with these names.
Yes,
So what do you think? You think that it's an alien entity, or it's more of like the angels of light, some type of spiritual being, a presence in that kind of way?
Well, Maitreya is here fully physically as a man in a Pakistani body. However, he is so advanced that in his consciousness he can be in many places at once. But he is not an alien. What Gerard is talking about, and Gerard has a wonderful book called Here to Help, which he may have spoken to you about, and he has another book that we call them our space brothers. They are humanity living on the planets Mars, Jupiter, and Venus, and they are like us, except they are very advanced. They live in the higher planes, in the etheric levels of physical existence, and so when we go to their planets, we don't see a thing. And, of course, we assume naturally there's nothing there, but they are as populated planets as we are. They have advanced technology. They have a very advanced and benign civilization. Ours is rather crude, and they are worried about us. We have nuclear technology that causes a lot of nuclear radiation, that they come in their spaceships and mop up as much of that nuclear radiation from our power plants, for example, as they can within the law of karma. So they do us a great service. In fact, Benjamin Creme says that were it not for our space brothers, this planet would be uninhabitable by now. So they are part of the reappearance of Maitreya, the coming again of these great teachers, but they are here to help. They are here to keep this planet whole until we have wakened up and start repairing our own planet, because we are, the masters say, at the point where our climate change is so severe we will not be able to control it anymore. So this is a very critical time in humanity's history, and the Space Brothers from the other planets have been coming here for a very long time, but it's only really in the last several years that the public in general has been educated properly to the great service that they render humanity on this planet. Gerard is a wonderful speaker, and
He really is.
Is a really great guy. I'm glad you got to talk to him.
Yeah, he's speaking about everything that you're pretty much touching on right now, with especially Benjamin Cream. And like you said, he is really a great gentleman to speak with. I mean, I was so impressed with his presentation. It was incredible. But I just want to ask you a couple more questions, if I may. Is that okay, Pat?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, like you mentioned, we have a lot of situations going on globally. You know, the crises in the Middle East, Africa. You know, regarding extremism, with the nuclear armament issues with Iran, and also the potential problems with North Korea and Russia. Do you think that we're reaching a critical point where God or some of these, like you said, these teachers are going to intercede with humanity and stop us from destroying ourselves?
Yes, that's why Maitreya and his group are here. That is their mission, to rescue and rehabilitate us and our planet. They, however, are limited by the law of free will. They cannot just come in and either wave whiffle dust or act in an uninvited way so that we don't have to learn our lessons. They must adhere to the law of free will. We have to, first of all, become aware of the fact that these great teachers have come. They are totally capable. They know the way out of our problems. And yet we have to, first of all, know who they are. We have to be able to make a choice. Because the masters say we must learn to live together in peace as true men, or we will destroy ourselves on this planet. They started saying that in the 70s, and of course it's very difficult to get attention for that kind of what was then an extremist view. But as Bill was saying, this is becoming news. The possibilities of this really serious degradation and final destruction of the planet is a possibility. We have the atomic clock moving back up to midnight. We have the difficulties in the Middle East. We have, as Benjamin Crumb says, most of the news people say there are 9 countries in the world with nuclear capability. The masters say there are 24 that have the capability to, in a very short time, develop nuclear warheads. So this is a time when Maitreya and the masters have come, and they are waiting for us to decide whether we are willing to do what it will take to stop this progress that we have been, this path that we have been on. What will it take? Basically, it is love. Maitreya is the Lord of love. He is so pure. He embodies the love aspect of God on this planet and distributes it daily throughout the world. He says,
I think we need a little bit more of that, Betsy, for sure, in today's environment. We have a lot of, I think, hatred, and it seems like a lot of negativity going around in the global atmosphere, and even in society in general. You know, I think a lot of people are thinking so much self-centered and thinking about their own personal interests and not looking up to their fellow man and having some compassion and love and spreading peace instead of all this negativity and all the turmoil that's being created throughout the globe. So yes. I totally agree with you. Yeah.
Bill, can I have you hold on the line? We got a couple other callers that have been on hold. I'm going to bring another caller on, okay, Betsy?
Sure.
Yes.
All right, okay. Caller, good evening. Welcome to K-Talk. You're on with Betsy Whitfill.
Hey, Betsy. Maitreya, who is that?
Maitreya is a world teacher for this age of Aquarius.
Where does he fit in with Buddha and Christ?
Yes, he is he will be the fifth Buddha, Maitreya Buddha. So he is our elder brother. He and the Buddha took the highest, what we call initiations, back.
What about Christ?
Millennia ago. He is highly evolved. He has never left the planet, but he has been here many, many times and
what about Christ?
Developed. Sorry?
What about Christ?
He is the Christ. He overshadowed his beloved disciple, the Master Jesus, in Palestine 2,000 years ago. Jesus of Nazareth, for the last 3 years of his life, was...
I have a theory about Christ, Buddha, and all these guys. You know, like, don't let anybody get in between you and God. I don't know who God is, but it sure as heck ain't these guys. And,
well, in the esoteric literature, God is both without and within. And as you know, probably in the Bible, Luke 17:21, the kingdom of God is within you. And that is certainly true. We are each
I'm
of
not
us
good. I'm not good standing with my Mormon family because they all believe in the Mormon religion and the Book of Mormon and then Christ. But maybe. But I don't. I just believe in between me and God. That's it. Nobody else. Mm-hmm. Anybody else gets in the way, somebody's taking out my money or something.
Harv, let me ask you this, Betsey,
yes, sir.
And Bill, and get your thoughts on it. Are you, Betsey? You're not talking about a religion per se. I think, Harv, that's what you're talking about. Whether it's the LDS Church or the Catholic Church or the Presbyterian Church, I think Betsey is talking, and I could be wrong on this, more about individuals or individual representation. Is that correct, Betsey?
Yes. I'm not talking about religion only insofar as it is a way to relate this story to audiences who may be of certain religions. But this is, for me, not a religious story, and Maitreya says he is not a religious teacher. He is a spiritual teacher. There is still the great teacher for Christians is the Master Jesus. He has been working with Maitreya for a very long time.
Whoa, wait a minute. We are all the Master teachers. That's why I just said. Mm-hmm. We only buy into God. That's it. Whatever that God is. There's nobody in between. That was my point, sis.
Of course.
And if you
I'm not arguing. No.
Well, let's have a discussion. I mean, who is this guy? I mean, you and God. That's it. And then if you tell me something from that, I'll buy it. But
well, I'm only here to give you the information that I have, and
you and God.
Yes, that's right. God is within you.
No, the Betrayus guy.
Sorry?
The Betrayus guy.
What about him?
He's your God.
No. He is. He is the Son of Man, but so are you. As a Son of God.
It's
we
just
are all
between you and God.
Daughters of God, brothers and sisters of one humanity.
And we're all coming down to the ugliness of what's going on on this planet.
Yes.
And you either go straight to your God or you don't. Now me, I'm a prophetic individual. I get that part. It's not hard for me to understand. The thing about it is, if you're going through somebody to get to God, that could be wrong.
Well, Maitreya really doesn't teach going through him
so
or
he's
anywhere
God.
else.
He's God.
No, not at all.
Well,
Any
then
more
why are you
than
going
you
through
are
him?
God or I am
What
God.
I'm saying is, why are you going through him if he's not God?
Well, I don't
You
think
gotta
she,
go.
I don't think she is, Harv. I think
Sorry,
she's,
brother. I was pushing hard.
No,
Sorry,
no,
sorry.
no. It's okay. That's what it's all about. I think is she what she's saying, Betsy. Correct me, and Bill too. Is it's just another maybe another messenger, but not a god. But by no means.
I don't think.
Harv, I got a question for you. So are you one to believe that there will be a second coming of a Messiah or Christ to come when Armageddon, or what's prophesied in Revelation, and will come here to save mankind?
No,
Or
I
do you
don't think that.
So you think that it's there, like a person like Jesus or other people that were in the past, like she's mentioning, world teachers of spirituality, people that represented, I'm not saying they're God,
No, I'm
but
listening. I'm listening.
you know what I mean? They were representative of the teachings of the spirituality, the goodness, the love, the peace, the morality. They're not God.
I love the love, but I'm not. A lot of it's mythology, and I think that mostly I don't know. But from what I understand is, you can't have anybody in between you and God. You got to go straight to the source.
That's right.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
You have to have that connection. I mean, the church.
I don't have it. I'm not trying to say I do.
I understand.
I'm not. But
like for me personally,
think,
Marv, I don't need to go to church to have a connection with God. I can just have that connection with myself and pray to God on my own. On my own being. I don't need, like what you're kind of saying is, you don't need a bridge to have that bond with a direct connection with God.
All right, well, let me give you a scenario. Okay, so people lie to me when I'm doing business. So I call somebody straight away, and they say, no, they were lying. Okay, that's cool. That's easy. I got a cell phone. But when it comes to this big picture, I mean, I can't get on the phone with God. I mean, I know there is something. For God's sake, I mean, there's something out there so great and expanding. Then I come outside with my telescope, and Debbie said, "Get in the house. You're getting snowed on." I'm like, "Snowden?" Anyway, so I don't know, but I know that I don't want to have a bunch of people telling me how I have to believe or what this other person is saying this thing. Perform a miracle in front of me, okay, I might 50% believe you.
All right,
That's what
I get you.
I get you. Hey, Harv, thanks for calling, brother.
I love you guys.
All right, take care.
Thanks for being there, sis.
All right.
Pleasure.
Hey, that's what makes us. That's what is good about this show. It lets us all be open to things. All right, everybody, welcome back to Fringe Radio. Betsy, again, thank you so much for coming on this night and coming on tonight and being with us here.
Thank you.
People are passionate about things, and maybe that is a good thing.
Well, it really is. I think we have, as a humanity, because of our advanced communication systems now and the Internet, we have really shrunk the world in terms of consciousness. And one of the difficulties that we face is the injustice in the world that now everybody sees. For so long, of course, there would be the very poor, there would be poor nations, and there would be rich nations. And the rich nations thought they were helping the poor nations by arranging the global economy in a certain way that, of course, benefited the rich nations. But now everyone knows the truth about how we live, how 3/4 of the world lives, and the injustice that exists and that everyone is now aware of has within it Maitreya says, the seeds of a third war. We had the Great War in what we call World War I and World War II, and those were supposed to be the end of war, and yet we have had war sporadically here and there, some worse, some not so bad, ever since then, and none of those wars have been have settled anything, and it continues. So the injustice in the world is what is the real difficulty, the problem, not only in terms of spirituality, because we are one humanity, but the fact that the very poor and the disenfranchised are not going to put up with the global structure any longer.
Right.
And so there is a voice that is coming out in all the countries. It started with Tahrir Square. We called it the Arab Spring, but it really is a voice of the people that is being expressed more and more loudly in all the nations, mostly the younger people, but the young at heart can be in that category too. And they are demanding freedom. They are demanding justice. They are demanding the basic necessities of life for all people so that as human beings we can all live in human dignity. So this, Maitreya says, is the voice of God in speaking through men. And this voice, he says, will not be silenced, and the governments of the world will not be able to handle it, and it will win out. We know
Betsey,
now.
I have a question for you. I have a question regarding what you're discussing right now. If let's say, a person came forward and claimed to be the Messiah, would he or she, would they be accepted by society today? And how do you think we would be able to determine that the individual is speaking as a master teacher and not specifically some sinister individual or possibly even an antichrist?
Well, this would be something that has to be done for over a period of time. Share International has been providing the public information, just information, about this emergence of Maitreya and the Masters for over 30 years now. Our job has not been to convince anyone of anything. We just report what we know, and people respond however they respond. I must say the response has been very negative at first. More and more, though, as we have seen the news in the various religions, what has gone on, the difficulty, the turmoil, the disillusionment, the disenchantment, we don't hear that quite so much anymore. So Maitreya says, here I am ready to speak to all of humanity at once on Declaration Day and to present you with your soul, your inspiration, the needs of the world. And on that day, the experience that everyone will have will be so extraordinary. I've had this experience myself, as have, fortunately for me, many others. The love energy that he distributes will melt your heart. Love is very powerful.
Now, how can humanity, you say, okay, I understand about the Maitreya and the message that Maitreya is trying to send this type of message to humanity. But see, I think there is a fundamental question here that how can we bring all, have a basic respect and understanding of all religions of faith and spirituality, and recognize the true manifestation of God taught by all the founders of religions, and speak out against and distance themselves from those with extremist views who create all the turmoil and the bloodshed going around. So how do we create that bridge, Maitreya create that bridge to bond all of these different religions with all the different factions and discourse that they have amongst each other and bring them all together as one? How do you think that would happen?
I have no idea, and I would not want the job myself. I can tell you that. But when you meet Maitreya, he is so simple. He is so, I hate to say it, loving, that anyone who has a heart would respond with love in his aura, so to speak. So all we're doing now is trying to tell the public that this is happening, to try and answer the questions that we can. The process will be ongoing to rebuild this world and to develop a new civilization. The Aquarian civilization will take 2,000 years. It has taken 2,000 years to develop the idealistic and individualistic culture that we have now that was really given back in Palestine when Jesus taught as Jesus Christ. So this is a process. But first, we have to be sure we don't destroy the planet. If the planet is destroyed, there's not going to be any process. The teaching goes on. There are ways in which people can educate themselves as to the details, and if they're interested. But there is no force. There is only a call to a consciousness, if you will, a willingness to be open and listen to this story and consider it, but certainly not to believe it just because I say so or anybody else says so. So that is our aim, to simply tell what we know. Those of us who have been in this work for over 30 years have great confidence that if people will listen, Maitreya's energy and his ideas, his simplicity of approach will appeal to all people. Religion is pretty much of the head. Maitreya speaks to the heart, and that is where our unity as humanity is.
Very
I agree.
interesting. Very interesting. What do you think about, I mean, you know, with all the wars and everything that's going on, let me ask you this, Betsey. Do you think that above and beyond Maitreya and different things, do you think we're going to see some sort of a I was actually reading an article that you posted a couple years ago about our space brothers in peace. And do you believe that in time we're going to see some sort of a sign? I think you know, people have strong beliefs, but sometimes it takes the writing on the wall. Sometimes it takes the proof in the pudding. You know, it takes the picture. It takes the event that happens that is undeniable. Do you think that in our lifetime we're going to see some sort of an event or some sort of sign, if you will, that's going to let a lot of people on this planet know there's more going on than just our day-to-day lives and our humble little lives?
Without a doubt. It's very simple. Now that we have the Internet, people can go to the website share-international.org. That is a heavily packed website with all the signs that have been going on, weeping the Virgin Mary, weeping the Ganesh statue that the Hindus worship, drinking milk, the, quote, stars. Maitreya has 4 stars, quote unquote, one in each quadrant of the Earth in our atmosphere. They are spaceships who are signs of the presence of this great teacher and the masters. All over YouTube there are videos of people looking up into the sky and seeing this star. All of a sudden it starts moving. It flashes different colors. It comes back and forth, and sometimes they see it every night for weeks, and then it's gone. That is a sign that many, many, many people find compelling. The miracles that occur on a pretty much daily basis. I have a picture of, in light, a self-portrait of Jesus that appeared on the wall in my house in 2003 and has been there every evening since then. So Share International website has pictures of all of this. On YouTube, you can go to the Share International channel, I guess it's called, and you can see videos of all of this. You can see the flashing lights, the reports from all over the world about all of these signs that are taking place. So there is a plethora of signs. But again, people have to become aware that this is happening and look for
Betsey, what about reaching you? Is there a place where people that are listening can contact you directly?
Through Share International, yes, indeed.
Okay.
They can write info@share-international.us. They can phone this number, 510-883-1848, and it's manned by some volunteers 5 days a week, and I man that phone line periodically. So yes, we are having all over the country over 30 cities participating. Groups are giving free presentations to the public on the reappearance, on transmission meditation. If you go to share-international.us/events, there'll be a listing by state, all the venues that will be available. There will be more than enough pictures, evidence, experiences that the Share International volunteers have had with this information. And it's all free of charge. That's our big push for this year. We really need to get this information out so that people can respond however they do, and Maitreya can judge whether we're ready for him to come closer and to have Declaration Day. He will not do it unless we are ready and we call for help.
Very
Excellent.
interesting, very interesting. Betsey, I want to thank you so much for coming on tonight and talking with us. It was an honor to have you on here. Thank you for giving us some time out of your weekend, and I wish you and your family a happy Easter.
Thank you, and you all too.
Okay, take care, Betsey. Have a good night. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.